Hello everyone and welcome to LEGO Star Wars Hot Takes episode 41. As always, if you have any hot takes or controversial opinions about LEGO Star Wars that you want me to discuss next week, make sure to go ahead and drop them down in the comments below. But jumping right into it, this first one comes from Alandes Vodor. I have no idea to say your name, bro. Regardless, he says, hot take, the 2010 Turbo Tank is overrated. It's outdated and people defend it because of the interior. And my opinions and thoughts on this set are constantly going back and forth and changing. In my head, it's tied with the 2016 Turbo Tank as the best LEGO Turbo Tank overall, but regarding it being outdated and overrated, that's one thing I kind of go back and forth on. On one hand, I do think that people only like it because, for one, like you said, the interior, and also just because it's very large, but on the other hand, I do like that it's very large. That makes it a fun playset, and on top of that, it's also fairly detailed. Like this set released in 2010, but the build itself does look a little bit further ahead of its time. So, I don't know, the debate on this set being overrated or not is something I kind of constantly just agree and disagree on, but I will say that, I mean, it wouldn't hold up today in 2026 if it was released again, and I do think the 2016 Turbo Tank is just as good. Julia Pinheiro says, hot take, I think the 4+ sets are pretty good for what they are. The audience for them are like 4 to 6 year olds, and they don't really care if sets aren't accurate or in proportion. They want a cool ship and a figure to play with. As adults, they are trash for us, and we say just buy a battle pack, but 4 to 6 year old kids really enjoy those sets. And I mean, obviously on paper, this would be the first thought people would have towards these sets. However, I disagree with this. I honestly don't think it's true, and it's because when I was a little kid, and also seeing little kids today like my nephew or little cousins and stuff like that, boys at least like the big sets. Like they just like big cool things. It's that simple. So when a little 6-year-old kid is walking through the Lego aisle at Walmart, their eyes are most likely going towards large sets like the Coruscant Guard gunship or the new MTT, or maybe something smaller like the V-19 Torrent or a Jedi Starfighter. The last place they're looking are 4+ sets like this because they just simply like big cool things. And I know that for me at least, when I was a little kid, if I would have got something like this buildable Grogu here for Christmas instead of something like, you know, Ahsoka's Jedi Interceptor or the V-19 Torrent, I would have been very disappointed. And I'm very confident that most other little 4 to 6 year old boys would be the exact same way. I mean, I really do think it comes down to the fact that kids just like big cool builds, and these little dumbed down 4+ sets are just not that. And what's even worse is that these 4+ sets are the same price as sets like Ahsoka's Jedi Interceptor or any other Jedi Starfighter. So that pretty much just makes them like lose-lose sets at the bottom of the barrel. That's how I always see them. And like if I had to get my nephew or a little cousin or something a set for their birthday, the last thing I would get them is a crappy 4+ set. I would get them something big and awesome to show off to their friends and to play with. Burlock Mage says, hot take, the Star Wars logo set should never retire. And when I first read this comment, it really didn't do much for me. However, now that I've sat and thought about it for a little bit, this actually makes so much sense. As some of us might know, there are popular sets that LEGO tries to keep on shelves at all times. The main ones being a TIE Fighter, an X-Wing, and a Millennium Falcon of some sort. There will never be a time when these 3 sets right here in some form are not on shelves. They will always be available in some way. And while the Star Wars logo set itself definitely isn't as popular as those other sets, I think it still can definitely fit that category because I mean, it's literally a brick-built Star Wars logo made out of simple pieces, and it looks great, and it has a decent price too. And unlike the sets I just mentioned, the Millennium Falcon, the X-Wing, and the TIE Fighter, and then other sets, this logo set really doesn't need any upgrades, so a remake would be unnecessary, and therefore, in theory, there's no point for it to retire because it's a timeless looking product that anyone can buy at any time for their LEGO collection. So yeah, this comment really does make a lot of sense. You just gotta think about it for a little bit. Yu Wayo says, hot take, the classic LEGO TIE Fighters 1999 to 2007 are the most accurate in terms of color and minifig scale. And you're actually kind of both right and wrong. In terms of being minifigure scale, they actually are the most accurate because from what I know, the TIE Fighters in the 2010s, like the First Order TIE Fighter and then the Solo TIE Fighter, are both slightly over minifigure scale, and then the TIE Fighters we have now, like the 2024 model as well as the 2021 model, are slightly under minifigure scale. But the older ones like you're mentioning are, from what I've heard, perfectly minifigure scale, and then I think the 2012 one actually is too. So again, you're right in that area, but in terms of the color, I mean, blue and black was just obviously not accurate. Yes, in the movies they do have a very clear blue tint to them, but it's not definitely all the way solid blue. It does look more gray than it does blue. So choosing between gray and blue in terms of which color is more accurate, I'm gonna go with gray. However, in reality, sand blue would definitely be the the most accurate and best looking, but that's a different topic. 8 Wodel says, hot take, the motorized AT-AT is overrated. The only reason people still talk about it is because of the one play feature, but other than that, the model is outdated, and the Playscale one from a few years ago is a much better set. And you're correct, but at the same time, it doesn't matter because that feature is the main selling point of the set, so obviously that's what people are going to talk about most. I mean, if you want to talk about looks, it's obviously the worst looking Playscale AT-AT. The 2003 one is better, the 2010 one is better, 2014 and 2020 are better. Like, obviously it's the worst looking AT-AT, but that's not the point. The point is that it can walk. Now, I mean, if there are people out there that do actually think it looks better than the other Playscale models, I think that's kind of ridiculous, but I'm pretty sure the general consensus is that it's the worst looking AT-AT, but it's cool because it can walk, so it really doesn't matter. And then on top of that, side note, this set right here is one of the only times that technology in LEGO Star Wars sets has actually worked and been cool. It failed in 2019 with that Droid Commander set, and it's failing in 2026 again with the Smart Brick sets. Kami So 2NW says, hot take, the TIE Striker is the greatest non-UCS set made in the last decade. And I mean, I could probably get behind this. I freaking love the TIE Striker. I think it's one of the best TIE variants LEGO has ever made. The build and the minifigure lineup is pretty much perfect, and actually, I reviewed this set years ago, and I gave it a very high score, like a 9.5 or maybe even a 10 out of 10. I remember giving it a very high score a few years ago when I reviewed it, but in terms of the best Playscale set in the last 10 years, this definitely isn't the first one that would come to my head. However, I do think I can get behind it being an underrated contender. Donut Brick says, hot take, after a while it gets really annoying when people criticize LEGO because they're trying their best and everyone just keeps repeating the same takes. Even when LEGO comes out with a good set, people figure out something bad with it and don't try and enjoy it. And like, is this even a serious comment? I can't tell if you're like trolling or being satire or not, but I'm gonna assume that you're not trolling and you're being serious with this. But stating that a multi-billion-dollar company that does like $5 billion in revenue a year is quote-unquote doing their best like they're a little kid is one of the most ridiculous things I think I've ever heard in my life. And I don't think I have to go very in-depth on that. I think a lot of people understand me. And then on top of that, we keep repeating the same takes like helmet holes or waist capes or downsizing sets or stickers being the wrong color, because when you're passionate about something and you want something to be better, and for us, we're fans of LEGO, we want it to be as good as possible, we're gonna keep repeating the same opinions until it gets better, no matter how long it takes. I mean, the fact that a mistake gets drug on for so many years is not gonna magically make us ignore it. And also, not to mention the prices they're charging for these sets nowadays, for them to have so many mistakes and be so low quality, that kind of just amplifies the level of how much we need to call out these mistakes, especially when other companies are doing it just as good, if not better, for way cheaper. So yeah, this comment is just kind of crazy, and saying that a multi-billion-dollar company is quote-unquote trying their best is just beyond me. For the prices they're charging and just how dedicated of a fan base they have, there's really no room for error. Anyways though guys, that's gonna do it for this week's episode. As always, if you have any hot takes or controversial opinions that you want me to discuss next week, make sure to go ahead and drop them down in the comments below. If you're new, please consider subscribing, and if you want to check out more of my videos, you can see them on the screen right now.